Hal Elrod. How you wake up each day and your morning routine, or lack thereof, dramatically affects your levels of success in every single area of your life. Focused, productive, successful mornings generate focused, productive, successful days, which inevitably create successful life. In the same way that an unfocused, unproductive, and a mediocre morning generated unfocused, unproductive, and mediocre days, and ultimately a mediocre quality of life. By simply changing the way you wake up in the morning, you can transform any area of your life faster than you ever thought possible. Hal Elrod.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Next Level.
Good vibes only.
This is Darren and Jessica Salquist, performance heroic coaches.
Facilitators.
What else is all the good stuff that we do?
I don't know.
So many. So let's break down that quote. That was a great quote. I feel like that could be the whole podcast and we could be wrapping it up.
Yeah. I mean, what we're going to be talking about today is your AM and PM routines or lack thereof, right? And how can we set up our days to be the most productive and focused, most successful days?
Yeah. So relating it back to that quote, how we break it down, how does that relate to kind of like your interpretation of that quote by Hal?
Pardon?
Well, I will tell you what I think. I really like the quote. It's basically reiterating the fact that how you start your morning is how your day is going to go, right? We know that you can control your AM and PM. You can't control a lot of the middle of the day, but why would you not choose to start your day well, right? Which I'm sure we'll talk about some of the things that we do when we do our AM and PM bookend, but why would you not start your day well? Just to give it a little bit of a help and support to have a good day.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we think about really before we kind of got into taking our life to the next level and really focusing on ourselves, we pretty much didn't have a morning routine, right?
Yeah, let's talk about what our routine was.
I remember I was playing poker quite a bit, coming home maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the morning some nights, jumping into bed or falling into bed. Sometimes maybe snacking on the way home. It depends on what was going on. And then waking up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning so I could leave the house, give myself maybe 30 minutes to get out the door so I can get to the gym or maybe get to work. And then when I'd show up to work, kind of being a little bit tired, maybe not focused, still trying to wake up, maybe a little bit brain fog going on. And then let's say I had a conversation with somebody that all of a sudden was challenging. Probably more than likely I didn't show up very well to that conversation.
Yeah.
Because I was just lacking sleep. And this has even happened to me the other day. I didn't get a good night of sleep. I didn't follow my protocols. I kind of had a little bit too much sugar, which really jacked up my night, which then I didn't sleep very well. And I walked into the morning and had a challenging conversation present me with someone, and I did not handle myself the best.
Yeah.
And that just kind of proved to me there again why I really need to stick to my routines.
That's right. So I think it's a good opportunity to walk down memory lane just to remember, because part of it is remembering what we did prior so that we can celebrate yourself as you grow and you figure out what works for you. And so some of the things that I recalled too is the things that we did is we would stay up late, right? You talked about playing poker,
TV.
Watching TV, falling asleep in front of the TV. Prior to that, even we had, TV in our room.
Yeah.
And that was for me, that was something that I always said, hey, I got to have a TV in my room. It helps me fall asleep. Not knowing really the how it affects my deep sleep, how it affects my REM sleep, how it affects even my light sleep, and what am I consuming right before I go to bed. There's many times that I still am like, oh, what am I consuming here? Like I want to consume goodness and I want to consume positive things. I do not want to consume, things that are going to put me in a certain place as I'm drifting off to sleep into the area and the time that I want my full recovery. And so once we really learned the components of sleep and how important sleep is, it really helped us adjust little by little. I mean, we have shared before, it took years for us to downsize TV in our room. It took years for us to stop staying up late and watching TV every night and falling asleep in front of the TV. I was infamous for that. I always fell asleep. It was like my lullaby, which it made me fall asleep, but it didn't help me have a good sleep. And then many other things that we transitioned through time, and getting to bed early, enjoying getting to bed early, and getting our rest for the next day.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even think about it back then, right? That was just something you did, and that's kind of what we trained ourselves to do. Again, these programs that we don't realize that we're being programmed as we go through our childhood and our adulthood. And not so much maybe our childhood. I think definitely parents kind of really implement routines for children, because they know when their children don't get a good sleep that they're going to be a little bit difficult in the morning. And so, but what happens as we get to become adults, we want to stay up later, and we stay up later because now we're in control. We get to do whatever we want. And so we think that's the thing that we want to do, is stay up late and binge watch these TV shows. And then again, what are we doing when we're staying up late watching TV?
Eating,
typically
and drinking.
Snacking, right? Yeah, we're eating something. We might be drinking something, typically probably not water, might be having some other type of beverage or whatever. And then sometimes people think about drinking soda or having caffeine later in the day. And we hear that a lot in our coaching, where people are drinking coffee after 2:00 in the afternoon thinking, oh, caffeine doesn't, I'm fine. I fall asleep. Literally, my head hits the pillow and I'm falling asleep. That's also not a good thing, right? When we're just falling asleep instantly because our body's shutting down.
The latency.
But what we don't recognize, which I don't think Jess and I recognized in the very beginning, was the stages of sleep that we go into that light sleep, and then falling into that deep and that REM sleep, and how important all of that is. And that's what we're starting to recognize now, where we're starting to set ourselves up with, and that's what we're going to be talking about, these PM routines. Because really, we have 2 PMs when we really think about this, because it's, if we really want to take on the day, your day doesn't start in the morning when you wake up. Your day actually starts the night before, setting yourself up for that good, restful night of sleep. And that's what, if we think about when we have something major going on the next day, what are we thinking? Oh, I need to get a good night of sleep. Why aren't we doing that all the time? Why? How do we know what's going to happen the next day? And thinking about, if we start really making that a primary focus of getting a good night or a great night of sleep every single night of our life, the best that we can, how much better we're going to show up. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. A little bit of a breakdown. Again, there's no the way. You're going to create your own, but we're going to give you just some ideas and some tools wrapped around this. And you guys get to decide what you're going to take in and what you might implement. And that's what we'll just ask. If you don't have an evening routine right now, could you take one of these things that we suggest and bring that in to your routine?
That's right. Just add one small thing to your PM. We'll start with our PM, and then we'll move into an AM routine.
Yeah, let me check in. Brendan, let me ask you, if we may have you jump on the mic here in a minute, man. Do you got a PM routine?
No, I'm actually going to be writing down some notes because I have the worst PM. I mean, I stay up till like 2:00 in the morning sometimes. I use the evening as like my time to unwind, and I know that's terrible for me. I know like sleep is like exactly what I need to like feel better the next day, because I kind of go through these vicious cycles of depression and anxiety, and it has everything to do with me staying up to 2. But my problem is I can't find a great routine, and so I'm hopefully I'm definitely going to take some tips home from you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
all right, yeah.
Awesome.
See, this is perfect. We're going to be bringing this in. So some of the things that we're going to be talking about, again, it's all of us. I'm sure there's many of us that fall into this category, and that's why we're here, right? And that's hopefully why you're following us at Next Level, to be able to bring in some of these tools to really just take your life to the next level. So, Jess, what do you think? Let's start with the first thing about shutdown complete. When we talk about shutdown complete, what does that look like for you?
Well, that's when, I work multiple jobs. I work into the evening. So shutdown complete is a time where I want to be able to shift my focus from work to the other things that are important in my life. My goal is being able to have a clear delineation between shifting from work to love, right? And I that's something that is in my my wish list and my commitment list of the things that I journal about, the things that I think about, the things that I create goals is how do I succinctly be able to let go of the work piece and then move into the love piece. And what I realized is, for me, I need to have a moment to myself. And it's not even just the car ride home. I mean, there's times when I'm done at 4:30, and there's times that I'm done at, I get home at 8 o'clock at night, or I get done at 7 p.m. So it's very inconsistent for me. So how do I create something that is consistent? And that would be a routine of my transition. So work all in, and then be able to transition, whether it's a car ride, being very intentful and saying, okay, like do my affirmations, set my intention. If I'm driving home and I park in the garage, my intention is to sit there for a moment and just give myself a minute just to reflect on how do I want to end my day, meaning the shutdown, and how do I want to walk into my home where it's my comfort, it's my place, it's where my husband is, it's where I want to show up and be able to be present in that moment. And even sometimes be able to say, hey, I'm going to give me 5 minutes. I'm just going to sit and maybe do some breathing or meditation so that I can make that transition. So that's how I look at my shutdown complete. And I find very good value in when I actually do it. I absolutely notice when I don't do it. Yeah. When I'm just buzzing around and I'm walking in the door and I got 10 bags in my hand and I set it down and I come in and I kiss you and then I start, doing a dish or trying to prep for the next day. I do need transition time.
Yeah. No, and that's I would say Jessica's a good example for a lot of you out there. I think that she's definitely burning the candle at both ends right now and working on her shutdown complete. And that's where it has allowed me and my ability to show up in a stronger place of love to be able to help Jessica when she gets home, to be able to unwind and shut down. One of the things is, I would say we have a cat because it used to be Jessica's cat, but it's our cat. And of course, those cats have a cat litter box.
Yes.
And I would let her have that ownership of that cat litter box of keeping it clean. But because she's getting home late, again, sometimes 7:45, 8 o'clock p.m., that's something that I can do now. That's something that I know I can take on for her because I know that's going to help her unwind a little bit more. And that's the way I can show up in love as well. And also getting the kitchen clean and having those dishes clean. So when she comes home, she's coming home to a clean house. This is where our roles have shifted a little bit from my transition into what I used to do when I worked in more of the health field, medical field, coming into my field now that I'm working as a personal trainer and life coach. My hours have shifted a little bit. And so working into that shutdown complete, a couple opportunities is your first job that you have, your main job, is when you get to shut down, knowing what that time is having a hard stop. And whether that's 4:30 p.m., whatever that time might look like for some individuals, is before you shut down your job, is the first kind of look at what did I accomplish today? So you kind of really can look like, I had a pretty good day. So you feel good about that day. And then what do I need? What's still on the list? What are some of the things I still need to get completed, which I'm going to do tomorrow? And then setting up that task. When you show up to work, what's the first thing that I'm going to tackle? And if we can write those things down, then they're not in our head floating around, keeping us up late at night, that we know that we've created a plan of attack. So when I show up to the next morning at my job or at work, I already know what I'm going to be doing. I don't need to think about that. And that allows you, again, to take it out of your head, to kind of clear that space. And again, that's also when we leave that job where we might want to say out loud, shut down complete. That's that cue to your brain. That's that cue to yourself to say, okay, I'm done here. And now I'm going to flip the switch. I'm going to flip that switch from dominating my day to now dominating my evening routine. And this is where I would say for Jess, probably a little bit more challenging again for you, because now you're going from your full day job to now you're kind of your healing position, right? What you're doing for other individuals in the terms of reflexology and being able to show up for them and having that breath, having that ability to what is it that what's that transition for you?
For me, it's having that, and I think it's great to have a word that kind of flips the switch to put you in a different mindset. But closing the door, I mean, I'm done at work at 4. My next client starts at 4:30. So
your role positions though.
Yeah, my first role of the day, and then at 4:30 I have my first client. So it's a quick transition. Mm-hmm. So I need to be done at 4, right? And then I usually, I have an office at home and then I have another office near my work location. So either I'm driving 10 minutes to my location and I need to be intentful, right? How creating presence and having intention in the midst of movement even, so then when I get to my location, then at that point in time, I am setting up my space, taking some breaths, and then just having intention. There's something that is so important to, I can't show up in chaos or being manic or stressed out when someone's coming to me to be taken care of, right? To be, working on something. Maybe they have pain or they have discomfort or there's, they're having sleep issues. So I've got to show up, and it's a beautiful transition because once I get into that mindset, then the whole day's gone. The whole day of what I just did, right? So it's a shutdown complete from one, moving to the other, changing the mindset, preparing yourself, being present, protection, all that stuff. And then as I start doing it, I just kind of melt into what I'm doing, and the presence just comes. And then there's just intention to help and be service of other. And then from that point, then there's just another transition. Then I wrap up after a couple of clients. Either I'm then transitioning into the home office into seeing you, or I have a 30, 45-minute drive back home. And that's where I again start my whole transition again.
Yeah,
right.
But even one of those things, which one of the things that we're going to be talking about here on another podcast here shortly, is meditation, right? Taking a deep breath.
Yeah.
And that's where you also kind of can flip that switch a little bit when you're going from your full-time day job, moving into that healing position and allowing that stuff to get that stuff out of your mind again, possibly writing those things down, looking at what you accomplished in your first role, and then moving into your second role. But as you move into that second role, before you work with that first patient of yours, is taking that deep breath and clearing your mind, right? Bringing in that mental clarity. And that's what kind of meditation does, or that breath does, is allow you to clear your mind and release maybe any of those tensions that are going on that maybe were created in that day, and allow you, again, what we're going to call flip the switch, to move into this new role with a little bit of clarity, and then allow your body to almost release that tension, right? And you might have some affirmations that you might say, you might go through your own process to flip into this new role that you're moving into, so you can show up best for those clients that are coming to be worked on.
That's right.
And then same thing after you leave that role, and then you're coming home, going through that another breath and that meditation of shutdown complete in this role, and moving into the role now, going into that evening routine where, again, we're looking at connection, we're looking at love, and the biggest thing we'll say is recovery.
Yeah.
That recovery for yourself, to allow your body to heal itself, so we can actually get into that routine of allowing our body to say, okay, I'm preparing for rest now.
Yeah.
And that's why I would say that's something that I think we missed a lot before we really got into heroic and start creating these routines, is thinking about what rest is. And I would say, again, a lot of clients that we work with, and Brad, I'm going to come back to you, what we just talked about, really, right? We're just shutting down and saying, okay, I'm tired, I'm going to go to bed now.
Yeah, I was just thinking when you said that, like, I sometimes will lay in bed. I'll go to bed like pretty late, like 2:00 in the morning, and I'll be going to bed and I'll be slipping in and out of sleep, and it feels like I'm getting pulled.
Yeah.
And I know it's just my body shutting down, but it feels it's scary. It feels like, is this right? And I've done it. It's happened to me enough that I know that I'm fine, but it's not a good way to fall asleep.
Yeah.
I just go right to deep sleep.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's our body shutting down. That's our body saying, hey, we need to recover, so we're going to shut you down.
Yeah.
All right. And then get into that mode, because that's what we need. And that's the thing, as far as deep sleep goes, that's where our body actually recovers. This is where it goes through the process and repairing those damaged cells. And this is where what's really important, and I'm sure a lot of us recognize this, that is going through 4 cycles of deep sleep. That's what our body really needs. And that's what we fall into first, is into that deep sleep, that first 4 hours of our sleep, because that's where our body repairs itself. Our body knows that this is the time we need recovery, so we want to get there fast to be able to heal ourselves. And the goal is, and this is why when they talk about 7 to 8, 9 hours of sleep, because if you're getting that 8 to 9 hours of sleep, you're actually going to fall into another 1 or 2 cycles of deep sleep, which then is just a bonus for allowing your body to repair and recover. And And I think that's a lot of things people don't, I can get by in 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I mean, I used to think that all the time.
That's what we thought. Yeah.
But
It was like
we
5
don't,
hours.
yeah,
Woo!
we don't realize the damage that we're doing to ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
you
one area.
talked about, just to finish that thought process though, you talked about deep sleep, then you have like light sleep, and then you have REM sleep.
REM sleep.
And so you're kind of going through that, and Darren and I have Aura rings. So we look at our sleep every night. So again, it gives us a protocol, a routine of like, we're given data to say, okay, where can I make an adjustment? And we can play with our data too, is, go to bed late or eat something, high sugar later at night. The ring tells you the data, and you say, oh, okay. So you confirmed that my heart rate spikes when I fall asleep, and then it drops, it's like, you see it happening. You can't deny the fact. So it's good data to have too, when you're actually kind of testing out what's working for you, and test out your sleep. Try to be consistent with the sleep, test out how long that you need to sleep. And when you feel better, how you fall asleep, being, just finding some more consistency. We know you can't be, like with my schedule is diverse and versatile, and I have to be flexible, but I do pretty darn good getting my 8 hours of sleep consistently throughout the week. Yeah.
Yeah. And then going through that. So that's that first part. And then another part is really falling into a little bit later is this digital shutdown. And this is definitely a thing that I've been working on. This is a battle. I think, Brendan, this is what you're working on, right? That digital shutdown of turning off that TV, turning off our phones. And that's the part where I've really worked on and still working on it. Again, not 100% here, is 1 hour before I go to bed. Is I have an alarm on my watch that goes off at 5:30 in the afternoon, because my goal is to be in bed around 7:30. I mean, this is a new thing for Jess and I, that where we're just crushing it, getting to bed early so we can get good nights of rest. I get up at 8, or I get up at 4 in the morning typically. So I really want to work on getting that sleep and not staying up late. And the challenge is the eating, getting a good meal in before
Early
that,
enough,
because I'd like to have that 2 hour. The goal would be 4 hours, but I have not hit that mark, but 2 hours of no food in my stomach before I go to sleep. So that's the thing too, when we're thinking about when we're eating food or drinking anything, is our body's going through that digestion period where actually before it can fall into sleep and start actually focusing on recovery, it's got to digest food. And one of the things that I've learned is I used to like to eat a lot of like meat and protein. That's what I'm kind of doing, that carnivore, where if I had steak or some type of meat, that takes a little bit longer to digest. So I really like to have sometimes eggs. If I'm really struggling for a late meal, then I would have eggs because that's a little bit easier for my body to digest and I can get that protein in. But that digital shutdown is one area that Jess and I are working on, where we're turning off our phones, we're turning off the TV. We're pretty good at that, where again, we canceled our TV. Maybe if we watch a show on Netflix, and typically we don't even get through the whole show. We have a pretty good 35 to maybe 60 minutes of time that we spend watching TV a night, if that, not even every night, but on the weekend. And then when we shut that phone down, what are we doing? We're starting to prepare now for bed. We're starting to get the coffee ready. We're getting maybe cleaning the dishes, start maybe washing our face, brushing our teeth, going through these routines that we have to prepare ourselves for sleep. And what are some of the things that you do, Jess, to prepare yourself for, what's some of your routines?
So basically for my shutdown, the things that are really important to me, and I wasn't always doing these things, is I didn't brush my teeth every night. I brushed my teeth in the morning. I thought that was good enough. I'm super pumped that this is on autopilot, that I brush my teeth. I wash my face every single night. I didn't do that either. Back in the day, I didn't wash my face every single night. I was like, the thing was you did what you did until you were so exhausted, you just went and you plopped down in bed. I get it. Like, who, you're staying up late. Who's gonna do all the protocols that you need to do? So it just brings some more value, and again, intention and presence, right? There's the other things that I do. I journal every single night, and we talk about, even if it's one word or a date. I really try to be writing a date or one word. Usually, I try to make some meaningful stuff in there, but we may touch on journaling later or another podcast, but it is super impactful when you're writing down reflections of your day. And that's part of my end of my day is that I get to put out some gratitude there. I get to, think about something that went really well. I get to see what I could have done possibly better. Sometimes I'll doodle, it depends. What I really enjoy a lot is when I fan back through my journals and I read something and go, oh, that was profound. I'm like, where did I get that? And then I realize, oh, I wrote that. That was me. That was my thought. Like it's kind of fun to go back and do that. And one thing that I think is really interesting is I know when I'm off is my dates in my journal get all messed up, right? I mean, I've said it to Darren, like I had December, I did golden in December, and then January hit, and then I started writing December again, and then February hit, and then I started writing December again.
I thought you were writing the year.
No, I wrote December for 2 months after December, and I was writing 2025. So it was just like this weird warp.
2024.
No, I was writing 2025 December in January and February.
Oh.
So yes. So it was like a time warp. And for me, that was a good little wake up call every time I caught myself doing that because something was missing. I wasn't present. I wasn't being intentful. I was autopiloting, which is great, but not when you're not even paying attention to what you're doing. And that's part of it, right? I was disconnected in my digital shutdown.
Yeah. And that could have been even that you're a little bit more fatigued than you were thought, and that little bit of brain fog to where you just kind of were on autopilot, just writing down December.
I was in December.
Writing down the month, right?
Yeah.
And so, those are the things that we'll dive a little bit deeper into journaling on another conversation, but that is part of our AM and our PM routines is journaling, because journaling gives you that opportunity, especially in the evening, what we're going to call win or learn, where you get to celebrate some of the things that you did that day, especially if you're working on your goals. And by writing your goals down every single day and going through a process of journaling and reviewing how you did on your goal, gives you a 42% increase in likelihood of actually achieving that goal. Mm-hmm. And if you really think about that, is because you're writing it down every single day in the morning and in the evening, what's on your mind? Your goal. You're going to be thinking about how you're tackling that goal. And that's one of the things I like when we bring it back to the evening routine on that shutdown, that 1 hour that we're prepping to go to bed, is there is some nights when and again, it's not even that late. It could be like 8 o'clock at night that we're shutting down and going to bed, and I'm just like, oh, I'm just tired. And it's like brushing my teeth is not a problem, but what I had a problem with was flossing. Mm-hmm. I'd go to the dentist, and I always felt bad for the person that was cleaning my teeth because I felt like there was a bloodbath going on in my mouth, just her cleaning with all this stuff, and I just imagine my mouth just totally bleeding. And they'd always ask, do you floss? Do you floss? And it's obviously evident that I'm not flossing because my gums are just bleeding. And so I made it a goal, and that's one of the things in the Heroic app that by utilizing that is I put one of my targets is flossing. And so I think for almost 2 years now, I haven't missed a night of flossing. And there's been many times that night where I'm tired, like, oh, I don't want to floss tonight. And it's like, how hard is it to floss, right? It's like, and my goal is 1 tooth. As long as my floor and my ceilings, we've talked about this before, as long as I floss 1 tooth, that counts. And typically, if I floss one, more than likely I go through the other ones.
Of course.
And so that's where I have not missed. And I always ask myself, I always put myself through that routine as well when I get to that point of, what am I going to skip tonight? And I'm not going to skip anything, because if I'm tired, that's just an awareness for me to say, then you need to get to bed earlier.
Yeah.
Because you stayed up a little bit later and you made that decision. Again, I want to call them not sacrifices, but I made a decision to maybe stay up past my time that I told myself I was going to work my way into my protocol, that I still follow my protocols. I don't let those slide. My evening routines, I just do not let slide. In saying that, I would say one of the times that I have messed up is the eating. Every now and then I'll slip into snacking. Okay, so that's definitely.
I can hear if I'm in the bedroom, I can hear a bag going crinkle, crinkle, and I'm like, oh, he's snacking.
Or I'm searching through the drawers, right, looking for something.
You're always, searching through the drawers. But I do want to say, though, with any of these things that we're talking about, the point is pick something, one thing that you're going to actually try, and then add on again and add on again and add on again until you have made your master routine, because it just doesn't, you're not just going to wake up and do the plan or right before you go to bed and do the plan. And then the next day, if you're not putting the plan together and having any intention to do it, then what's going to happen is you're just going to go on autopilot with your other habits and behaviors, and you're going to get on your phone and you're going to scroll. And Darren and I continue to get pulled back magnetically into this vortex of the doom scrolling on the phone. And it has to be a very active mindset that we don't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm just encouraging everyone to pick something that works. If it's, hey, if you're staying up till 2 a.m, say I'm going to go to bed at 1 a.m. Like, you don't have to make such a gigantic shift that it's going to be super, impossible, but find something that you can do and start there. And then we talked about writing it down. Just write it down and have it on a piece of paper so that you can reflect back to it. Otherwise, it just is a thought.
Yeah.
It's just a word that you're not applying to your life.
Yeah. And it's putting the value on sleep. And that's the one thing I don't think I ever valued sleep. Sleep was just something that we did. We shut down. I always felt like the fear of missing out. If I go to sleep, like, what am I going to miss out on? And that would be even simply, I don't want to get too far deep into this, but that's the goal right now. Like what you just said, Jess, about anybody that's working on your nighttime routine. If you want to get to sleep earlier, don't just jump into a 2-hour earlier routine. Start with 15 minutes and then start tracking it, and then go to 30 minutes earlier, and then go 45 minutes earlier, until you finally get to that time of when you're not gonna, you're holding tight to what time you're going to sleep. And this is where Jess and I too, we've had a couple opportunities to go out to these couple parties with some friends and my brother and stuff, and going to check out, watching my friend DJ and doing these things. And it definitely sounds fun, but what we're giving up is our sleep. And right now we're training, Jessica's training for the Walla Walla 6. And so on Sunday mornings, we're getting up at 5:30 in the morning, and we're running 10, 13, 14, 15 miles. And that's one of the things that we talked about this last weekend. Do you want to go to this party? It's like, we're going to go running. And if we go to this party, we're not going to get good sleep, and we're going to run 13, 15 miles. We knew that would be difficult. First, that running that distance is already a challenge. But imagine now not getting a good night of sleep and then getting up and going to run.
Yeah.
And so we've made the decision right now that what's more important to us? The training's more important. We'll have other opportunities to go out. And we want to make sure that we enjoy this run. We don't want to make the run a chore. We want to make the run enjoyable.
Yeah.
And so those are choices. Those sometimes are hard choices, but that you get to make those things. That's what's awesome about this. You get to find, where do you want to hold true to what you said you're going to do. And so that's where Jess and I are right now.
And I just want to say, sorry, one more thing about that is just, if you can choose a self-connection. I mean, if you're, making connections with, if you have a roommate or loved ones or children or anything like that, making that connection and, but always giving yourself time to connect to yourself. I mean, I get it. I use my morning times are my morning times to connect. I love having a cup of coffee and doing my thing in the morning, but the self-connection and not just disconnection, right? We're not just like disconnecting from everything, because that's really not recovery, completely aimlessly, like, being completely distracted by just nothingness, that's important, is more of a disconnection. So I just want to encourage people to find meaningful connections during those times with both of your protocols. And, one of the things that Darren had suggested, and we had gotten stuff before, is like even doing like the coloring, things that are going to bring you peace, calmness, presence, connection, creativity, like things that are going to help you be a better person, help you connect with yourself. Because when you do that, right, you're present with yourself, and then you understand yourself a little more. There's more clarity. There's more actually goal driven. You kind of connect to yourself so you know what you truly want. So I think those are important things too, that everybody's routines may look very different, what is helpful for them. And I'm just encouraging you to just try something different if it's not working for you.
Yeah, and that's where we're going to get into AM routines here in a moment. But the reason that digital shutdown is so important is shutting down those TVs, because I'm like, I fall asleep in front of the TV. Your brain is taking in all this information, right? The TV or your phone, it's a stimulus. It's a stimulus to your brain, and again, the colors, and this is where you can use blue blockers and stuff like that. So that's why we talk about the digital shutdown. That 1 hour before we go to sleep is being able to shut down your brain, and then finding consistency around what time you want to go to sleep, because that's the other thing that really has helped, is that having that consistency around what time do you want to go to sleep. And it's going to vary now and then, again, on the weekend when you have an opportunity to go out or maybe you're socializing and stuff like that. This isn't one, that you can't make any adjustments. Just so when we're saying this and we're talking about that there's always going to be some adjustments. But now let's go into our AM routines.
Yeah.
And what's important is knowing what time that you're going to wake up in the morning. Because knowing this is what we talk about, your AM actually starts the night before. Because I know if I need to get up at 4 a.m., what time do I need to be in bed? And that's where I want to be in bed around 7:30 and hopefully be asleep around 8 or 8:30 so I can get that 7.5 hours of sleep. So number one, know what time that you want to wake up. And then once you start with your AM routines and there's a few things that you want to do in the morning for yourself, how long is that going to take? And so that's going to help you also make that decision about what time do I want to get up tomorrow to be able to get my routines done. And this is one thing that you actually are going to start doing something for yourself first before you start doing things for other individuals or for work or anything else. We want to be creative before we're reactive.
Absolutely.
Right? Jumping on our phones, and think about how many of us wake up and we grab our phones first thing in the morning. How do we make sure we keep those phones put away for that first hour and really dive into ourselves, whether it's meditation, whether it's body flow, whether it's journaling, maybe it's reading a book. Again, that morning coffee, how do we attach some of those routines? Like when we start making the coffee, that's one of the things that Jess and I do, and I think we do this at separate times as well, is that when we start that pot of coffee, we go and give ourselves 1 to 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes to start our meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we talk about the ABC, the anchor, the behavior, and then the celebration. So that's one thing as far as AM routines go. Jess, what do you have on that?
Same thing. I mean, I wake up and I do ankle pumps. I just want to get my body flowing. Like it just ankle pumps. If I'm stiff, I'll just sit up and I'll just sway side to side and then I'll touch the ground. Right. So there's this intention of like, I'm starting the day off right? I didn't just like literally alarm go off, jump out of bed and start moving, right? So the goal is that we're setting ourselves up to have the time. I think the two things that I dislike the most is being late and rushing to get ready in the morning. Those are two things that will not start my day off well. It starts it off already in a very negative feeling. If I'm behind, I'm walking into the gym late, or I start, work late or something like that. It doesn't feel good. So then you're starting off on the wrong foot already. Yeah. And then rushing. Nobody wants to be driving down the road, rushing, trying to get somewhere. That's when you get frustrated by the lights. You're not taking your time.
Person in front of you is driving too slow.
Yeah, you just are irritated. So what have you done for that? So say you get up at 5, you rush to get ready to leave the house by 6, giving yourself no time to really just be present for a second and kind of like say, hey, I'm going to have intention for the day. And then you're rushing to get to work for the next hour. Yeah. So you've spent 2 hours like stressing yourself out completely. Yeah. And then you might maybe have a meeting right in the morning, or you have something going on, and then you're going to show up. Yeah. You're going to show up your best at that point? Most likely not. So my morning is the pumping of the legs, getting the blood flowing. I go in immediately and I brush my teeth, because I know if I start getting busy and get distracted.
If you're working from home,
working from home, because there's a home and there's, other places that I work. So it really just depends. But there's certain things that I am very consistent about. And that is immediately brushing teeth and doing the ankle pumps. And then I go out into the other room. I always listen to a +1, which is on our heroic app that we talk about. It's just literally 1 to 3 minutes of just a good reminder of how to be showing up as your best basically. And then from that point in time, then that's where my autopilot stops, where I have choices at that point. I usually always start coffee. I'll start at that point. My best success is when I go right to the couch and I meditate. Then I'm golden. Then I'm like, I got a pep in my step. it's when those moments where I start making food and then I get distracted and then I'm doing other stuff and then all of a sudden I'm late and I'm rushing out the door. So there's definite success for me, and I get to celebrate more when I find the ankle pumping, I brush my teeth, I listen to the +1, I start the coffee, and then I go and do my meditation. Then I enjoy my coffee after.
Yeah. And then again, starting your day off with this is what we talked about, Hal Elrod, is that those morning routines is starting with a little bit of energy, a little bit of focus, a little bit of direction, which is going to allow you to take on your day versus, again, what you talked about, just showing up, rushing in traffic, maybe some, obviously women, not guys, maybe some guys, I don't know, putting makeup on as you're driving in the car, right? Stopping at McDonald's, getting some food because you didn't make breakfast, which actually you're spending time in line waiting for food that you could actually make a healthy breakfast, right? And those are the things that we can do because we're rushing. And I like what you said about when you're rushing and you're getting to these, when you get to work, you're not showing up your best because you're rushed and you're already kind of irritated because of all these different things that are going on. And so thinking about, again, starting your morning off with intention, setting yourself up for success, looking at already knowing what your schedule looks like, so you know what you're going to be taking on the first part of your day, and showing up as your best. And this is where Hal Elrod talks about this in The Miracle Morning, which you can see on YouTube. You can get his book, but he talks about what he calls life savers, and savers is an acronym. The S stands for silence, and that silence is that meditation. Then he talks about affirmations, where you're kind of going through that meditation, giving yourself positive affirmations around how you're going to take on your day or how you want to show up, thinking you're most energized, or maybe working on towards some of your goals. And then you want to visualize on what that day is going to look like for you and how you're going to show up and how you want to take on your day. Then you're going to bring in exercise. That's what Jessica talked about, is that little bit of body flow and that movement. And then reading, whether that's your Bible, whether it's a book that you're reading, and maybe looking more, what I would say, something that's working on self-development, that's going to put you in the right frame of mind. And that last thing is scribing, and that's journaling, writing down your goals, writing on maybe how you slept. What did you recognize? It's these things when you start going into creating these plans. And again, think about when you go on a trip, when you go on a vacation, you spend more time planning your vacation than you do showing up for yourself in the morning, right? When you go on vacation, you don't just show up to the airport expecting to be able to jump onto a plane. You've made reservations. You know what time you're leaving. You know what time you need to get to the airport. You know what you're packing. You're looking at the weather in case it rains or in case it's hot. And then you've made your hotel reservations. You've done all this work to make sure that you are going to have a great vacation. But we don't do this for our lives. We just are showing up. And so this is some of the things, and this is workshops that Jess and I can do. Again, if this is something that you guys ever think about doing or you want at your business, these are workshops that we can bring in, because think about if you had your business, your corporation, every employee really showing up this way, and this is what we're working towards also, is developing this new program. And for corporations, is that we get to say that I get to go to work today, not that I have to go to work, right? When I say I have to do something, that sounds like it's a chore. And again, when we get to go to do something, when I get to go to work, gratitude every time. I'm thankful for what I'm doing. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I realize I'm providing a service. And then think about how can you bring that back into your life, that you're showing up to your job. Because remember, you applied to this place that you're working at. You went in, you dropped off an application, and you said, I want to work for you because this is what I can bring you. And there's sometimes that question, what makes you different than this person? Imagine if you said, well, what probably makes me different from a lot of people is that I have AM, PM routines. I do journaling. I'm doing all meditation. I really work on myself so I can show up as my best version of myself to my job, to what I do. And so those are just a few things of what we talked about here. And again, some of the workshops that we can do. Brendan, anything that stands out to you that you might be able to add starting tonight into your evening routine?
I definitely am someone who needs like a shutdown complete. So like, I think one question that arose to me was like, is it possible to have like a shutdown complete, like in a car ride? Like, but because like I was thinking like getting home, like I have my twins, I have my wife, like I'm immediately bombarded, and I know like when I get inside, like the first thing that happens is like not immediately. Like I love my family, but it's just like it's too much. It's like my ADD is just like immediately like I'm already like on edge, and so I feel like that's one thing I really need is like that shutdown complete to really transform. And I think it would be as easy as just like telling Abby, like, hey, I just have like 10 minutes to like kind of decompress and then get inside. And then like, I think that would just change my entire evening.
Yeah.
But can you have a shutdown complete in like as a car ride, or you probably wouldn't recommend that, would you?
Well, Jess, go ahead. I'll have Jess give you a suggestion, and I'll chime in.
Yeah, I think you can definitely do a shutdown complete in the car ride, because what you're doing is you're just preparing for your first step into your house, right? And you're going to have, potentially that conversation before the first time you're going to say it and be like, hey, I realized, you're expressing your need. You're celebrating yourself. Hey, I realized I might just need 10 minutes when I step my foot in the door. So, I'm going to ask for that when I come home. Right. And so when you step in and we do this too, where I'll step into the house and Darren's like, so blah, 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 like shooting question after question. And it triggers me and I don't get it for a second until I'm wanting to respond in a very negative manner. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't nice. And then I realize, oh, hold on. I didn't do my thing. I didn't do my shutdown. I didn't do my transition. I didn't show up. I'm not showing up for love right now because I didn't take care of myself. And that's usually what it's really stemming from, is me communicating what my needs are, making sure that I'm consistent with it. And then identifying it before I get triggered. And so absolutely, yes, you can.
Yeah. And what I would kind of suggest, and this is something I think about, is when you say that shutdown complete, is when you leave your work, wherever that is how do you shut down right there? And so we're flipping that switch and say, okay, when I get home, where do I get to show up? I know the kids are going to be here, which I'm excited to see. My wife is going to be there. I'm excited to see, because what if we didn't have that? That's the part to like, I know sometimes that kind of, that it gets on me, but what would it be like if I didn't have that right now? I'd almost want that. I'd be missing that if I didn't have that. So one of the things that I suggest to the people that I work with is when you get in your car, put on a song or a music maybe it's meditation, maybe it's something that's going to bring you down to kind of get you in the vibe that you want to be in. In the morning, I like to listen to this song called Good Morning by Max Frost. It really just kicks off my day. And then another song that I love, it makes me cry all the time. It's called A Beautiful Day. I don't know who the singer is, but it's a little African kid that sings this song. It's like almost a cappella, where he talks about it's a beautiful day where I'm thankful for rain, I'm thankful for sun, I'm thankful for pain, I'm thankful for joy. And that just really sets with me. And it's being thankful for all those things that are in my life. And then what I usually tell my clients is that when you get to wherever you're at, let's say to the gym, or what I do, which I didn't practice the other day, and this is where I didn't have a good interaction, is when I put my car in park, I take a deep breath, bring it in. It's like, let's go do this thing that I love to do. And so think about when you get home tonight, when you put that car in park, before you walk into the house, give yourself that moment. Take a deep breath. I'm going to go home. I'm going to see my wife that I haven't seen all day. I'm going to see my kids that I haven't seen all day. And more than likely, they might be coming at me. Why? Because they're excited to see me.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's like, what if I came home and they're like, hey, I'm home. Like, okay. And it's like, hey, I'm home. I said I'm home, right? We'd almost miss that in some sense, right? And so just think about that. But if it is, maybe you had a stressful day, that you can come into your wife, hey, babe, I'm going to give you a little kiss here, but I'm going to go take 5 minutes and just kind of give myself just a minute to unwind. And then I'm going to come in, I'm going to be 100% present with you.
And if you make it part of your routine, though, they will also expect it. It's structure. You're creating structure for your self-care.
Right.
So you're like, everything Darren said, you walk in, hugs and kisses. Hey guys, I'm excited to hang out with you in about 5-10 minutes. I'll see you in a few. You like it becomes the part of your structure and your consistency, so that they're expecting it and they're not thinking, well, why does dad not want to talk to us today? So I think consistency is key for to create that space for your self-care.
And then come back to what's in your control.
Yeah.
Right? That's the other thing too, is focus on what's in your control. And again, being your kids, what are your ages?
9.
Yeah. So sometimes they might not know that thing, right? And so that's where maybe that moment in the car where you can just like, all right, let's do this, right? This is my next role. This is what I get to do. I get to show up as dad. What does dad look like? How's dad going to show up today? Maybe you rush the kids like, let me go give you a hug real quick and make that different, right? Maybe you approach them in a different way, and you get to play with it and see what works best for you.
Yeah, I definitely, and I feel like as a parent, like I try to stress like having routine to my children, like in bed every night by 9 o'clock, all these things. And like, I have zero routine. And I feel like having even some semblance of routine would really help them, because my parents never had routines. It's what you're saying on here is like very stuff I can implement easily.
And I love what you said, because this is what we kind of talked about. We've kind of learned this structure from our family, right? As of not having routine, watching TV, and then going to bed, sometimes falling asleep in front of TV. That's what our family did. That's what we did as kids. And then when you get to high school, or you get to your own apartment, or you go to college, what are you doing? You're staying up late. There's no routine sometimes. And then all of a sudden we get into our work life and we haven't created that structure. And so imagine now teaching your kids like, hey, you guys, this is super important to have this structure. When you get onto your own, you're going to do your own thing. But let me share some of the things that have worked for me over this time, what I've learned in my life. And if you implement it, awesome. If you don't, again, you get to do what you want to do. But these are things this is where, again, working with individuals and clients is the habits, especially when we talk around nutrition, when we're trying to work on changing the foods that we eat, but yet, I'm going to allow my kids to have these things. Well, that's what we're teaching them right now too. But if we can teach them these stronger, better habits now, that's what they're going to take on into life. And that's what I love by getting to see my nephews at the gym all the time. When they come into the gym, they're jumping on the exercise bikes, or they're climbing the rope. Like they see this is like our adult playground. And they see us doing it, so they go and do it. And this is what I've learned in my life. Working out's always been in my life, because that's what my dad did. That's what my mom did. And so that's what's been just kind of naturally incorporated into my life. Same thing with my brother, Kurt. We're always getting those workouts in, right? We very rarely skip a workout, because that's just part of our routine. We know that's what brings us some goodness. And so kind of thinking about where we're at, and then what kind of structure and routines can we create that's going to add benefit to our life. And again, this is where I'll just say, I'm going to sleep in the morning. What would it be different if I went to bed early? So I'm not sleeping in the morning till 9, 10 o'clock in the morning and giving up a lot of valuable hours in the morning versus those dark hours in the evening. So just some thoughts. Again, there's no the way. There's your way. There's my way. Jessica has her way. I have my way. You've got your way. But what things can we blend in to really see what we can create to do our own thing? So awesome. Jess, is there anything else you want to finish up with?
That's it. I think we got a wrap.
All right, you guys. Brendan, thank you for joining us today. I think we're going to start doing this a little bit more. Brendan's here, is our producer here, our guy that works on our podcast. And we're going to every now and then throw him in there to ask some questions.
I love it. I've always loved listening to your podcast, because I feel like it does help me be more active in the conversation, because like being able to like ask questions, because I do have questions sometimes, but other times I am back here just kind of sitting here and I do take stuff away. But I think when I get to be engaged, like I think it would show, like, ask me next month. How did my routine go?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna check in. We're gonna definitely check in on the next
podcast. Awesome.
All right, you guys.
Thanks for hanging
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. It was a little bit longer than what we planned, but that's okay. We love it, and that's how we take our lives to the next level with
good vibes only.
Peace.